She was only 12 years old. A girl who loved cheerleading, passed notes in class, and dreamed of high school dances. But in the early hours of January 11th, 1992, she cried for her mother as she was brutally tortured, humiliated, and ultimately burned alive by 4 teenage girls she once considered peers. What led these seemingly ordinary girls, just teenagers themselves, to commit one of the most sadistic murders in American history? Was it jealousy, peer pressure, or something darker, rooted in manipulation and broken homes? This is the haunting story of Shanda Sharer, and the terrifying reminder that sometimes, the worst monsters don't hide in the shadows, they sit beside you in the school cafeteria. Microphone # welcome to True Crime Hub, where we uncover the darkest truths behind real-life crimes. Today, we're diving deep into the brutal teenage crime that shocked the nation, the murder of Shanda Sharer. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you find value in these stories, please like and share to help us raise awareness and never forget the victims. Shanda Renee Sharer was born on June 6, 1979, in Pineville, Kentucky. Bright, energetic, and full of life, she was the kind of girl who made friends easily and radiated kindness. After her parents divorced, Shanda moved with her mother to New Albany, Indiana. There, she enrolled at Hazelwood Middle School. Shanda quickly became popular and joined the school's cheerleading squad. But beneath her cheerful exterior, Shanda was navigating the emotional turmoil of adolescence, divorce, and adapting to a new social circle. And then, she met Amanda Heverin. Amanda was a tomboyish girl with a rebellious streak. The two became close, some would say too close. Their relationship raised eyebrows, especially from Amanda's ex-girlfriend, Melinda Loveless, a girl who would ultimately become the ringleader of the horror to come. Melinda Loveless was 16, angry, and dangerously volatile. Born into a household riddled with abuse, her father, a convicted child molester, left deep scars that shaped her aggression and deep-seated insecurities. Melinda and Amanda had once been involved in an intense relationship. But when Amanda began pulling away, Melinda grew desperate and obsessed. Shanda was now the enemy, the pretty cheerleader who had taken her place. And Melinda didn't take rejection lightly. She began spreading rumors, writing threatening notes, and confronting Shanda in hallways. Teachers noticed the tension, but no one predicted what would happen next. Melinda's anger wasn't just festering, it was evolving into a sinister plan, one rooted in revenge. Melinda wasn't alone in her obsession. She found allies, Lori Tackett, Hope Rippey, and Tony Lawrence. All teenagers, all troubled, all impressionable. Lori Tackett, also 17, had a fascination with the occult and reportedly heard voices. Hope Rippey and Tony Lawrence were younger, just 15, but willing to follow their older friends. Melinda told them she wanted to scare Shanda. But as the group exchanged stories about hurting her, the plan escalated. The line between fantasy and action began to blur. In their warped, peer-influenced minds, murder didn't seem so far-fetched anymore. And so, on January 10th, 1992, they set the plan in motion. It was a cold, quiet Friday night. Hope and Tony approached Shanda's house under the pretense of taking her to see Amanda. Shanda, excited and nervous, snuck out of her house, unaware she was stepping into a death trap. They drove her to a remote location where Melinda was hiding in the back seat. When she revealed herself, Shanda was terrified. The group taunted her, forced her to strip, and bound her hands. They took her to an abandoned house, a notorious witch's castle. There, the torture began. They beat her, cut her hair, humiliated her. But this was just the beginning. Shanda was held hostage for nearly 8 hours. She begged for her life, pleaded, but Melinda's rage was all-consuming. They stabbed her repeatedly, burned her with cigarette lighters, beat her with a tire iron. But Shanda didn't die. At around dawn, the girls drove to a remote area in rural Madison, Indiana. Shanda was stuffed into the trunk of the car, barely alive. There, they doused her in gasoline, set her body on fire, and watched as the flames consumed her. Even in death, they showed no mercy, laughing, stopping for breakfast, even joking about the smell. Teenagers, laughing, after burning a 12-year-old girl alive. Later that morning, a man discovered a burned body off a gravel road. The body was unrecognizable, charred beyond recognition. By then, Tony Lawrence was overwhelmed with guilt. She broke down and confessed everything to police. Investigators were stunned. 4 teenage girls had committed a murder that rivaled any adult crime scene they'd ever seen. Within days, all 4 girls were arrested. During interrogation, each detail spilled out, every stab, every burn, every sickening laugh. But nothing could prepare the Sharer family for the autopsy results. Shanda had died slowly, in excruciating pain. Her father had to identify her by her dental records. Despite their ages, all 4 girls were tried as adults. Melinda Loveless and Laurie Tackett were sentenced to 60 years in prison for murder, reduced by good behavior and plea deals. Hope Rippey received 60 years as well but was released after 14. Tony Lawrence, who cooperated early, was sentenced to 20 years and served just 9. Public reaction was furious. Many questioned how peer pressure, jealousy, and manipulation could escalate into premeditated murder. The courtroom was packed with reporters, grief-stricken family members, and psychologists who tried to explain the girls' behavior. But nothing could ever justify what they did. Shanda's mother, Jackie Vaught, was never the same. She became an advocate for victims' rights and publicly forgave Melinda years later, a moment that shocked the nation. "I forgive her," she said, "because holding hate only continues the pain." Melinda, in prison, began working with animal rescue programs. But questions still linger. Was she truly remorseful, or simply rehabilitated by time? Today, Shanda's story is taught in psychology and criminal justice courses across the country, a case study in how unchecked emotions, peer influence, and neglect can fuel unthinkable violence. Experts believe the girls shared traits of emotional instability, trauma, and toxic group dynamics. Each had histories of abuse, neglect, or emotional isolation. But what united them was Melinda's manipulation. She orchestrated every moment, feeding off their loyalty and shaping a cult-like dynamic. Laurie's fascination with horror, Hope's need for belonging, Tony's fear of rejection. Melinda knew how to use these traits. In many ways, the murder wasn't just about jealousy. It was about power, control, and emotional chaos left unchecked. Shanda was not just a name on a case file. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. She should have gone to prom. She should have had a future. But her life was stolen by girls who let rage and cruelty eclipse humanity. Her death reminds us that emotional health in teens matters. That warning signs matter. That sometimes monsters wear the face of a teenager, and we have a responsibility to recognize them before it's too late. We share these stories not to glorify darkness, but to shine a light on it. Because justice starts with awareness, and healing begins with understanding. If this story moved you, if it made you think, grieve, or reflect, please subscribe to True Crime Hub, share this video, and leave a comment below. What do you think drove these girls to do what they did? Could it have been prevented? And how do we stop the next Shanda Sharer case before it begins? Let's keep Shanda's memory alive, and never let her story be forgotten. Rest in peace, Shanda.